Welcome back to Arise Prime Time, where we offer perspectives on the news and talking points of the day. I'm Charles Aniegolu. So, as the politics of Nigeria changes fast, powerful politicians on both sides are seeking to impose their will on a nation weakened by a lack of strong democratic institutions. For decades, that impulse has been restrained by the multi-party system. But these days, politics appears to be about powerful leaders consolidating a one-party system on the one hand and opposition attempts to form coalitions and alliances on the other, even as the main opposition, PDP, fractures further from within, with Minister Nyesom Wike and Governor Governor Mba, drawing new battle lines and preparing for more high-octane drama. Meanwhile, Peter Obi, who was supposed to be one of those at the heart of the new opposition coalition, seems to be turning back to familiar Labour Party territory, though it's not clear where that will lead, given how frosty things are there. And of course, for the ruling party, it's all about defection deals. So what exactly does all this mean, besides the fact that it's confusing the living daylights out of the Nigerian people? Well, to try and make sense of all this, I'm joined now in the studio by the political analyst and executive director of Development Specs Academy, Professor Okey, Ikechukwu, who is a member of the editorial board of This Day newspaper and is also a professor of strategic management and human capital development. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Well, let's start with the PDP, because obviously they're in the news today. Somebody said that if you go to a native doctor, I think it was one of our analysts said, if you go to a native doctor, they'll ask you to bring a chicken or a dog or a goat or a cow, depending on the size of your problem. But in the PDP's case, they'll be asked to bring an elephant.
Probably two.
Or possibly even a dinosaur. That's how big their problem is. I mean, how do you assess the multiple problems that almost daily seem to be bubbling to the surface around the PDP?
The PDP is made up of too many contradictory forces, and the party goes around pretending those forces don't exist. Let's move back to a sense of history so we don't join the current hysteria. Atiku got the ticket at a point against Tambuwal, and then he lost the elections. The only person, the strongest politician supporting Atiku was Wike. Then Wike came to contest at the time Tambuwal was contesting and Atiku was contesting. Tambuwal stepped down for Atiku. Now, that's bad enough on his own as internal politics. Atiku now made Tambuwal chairman of his campaign. Of course, that means Atiku was inheriting those who were angry with Tambuwal as well, and making enemies with Wike's friends. Go back to when he chose Peter Obi as vice president, the division that arose from it. The position had been already promised to Ekweremadu, and then without consultation, Peter was announced. So the PDP is made up of too many contradictory forces, too many angry individuals who are pretending that are not angry, and whose guns are trained on each other instead of on anybody outside. And so between the events of when they lost the last election to Tinubu and now, they claim to be the major opposition. I won't quarrel with that. But what is the nature of their opposition? What is going on in the PDP today that will make anybody say, I want this party to replace APC? Nothing. Internal confusion.
That's a good point.
Totally. So we must put it on the table. I think when I hear it said that, oh, that's a major opposition, I don't quarrel with it. I just said it's plain rumor mongering.
Well, we say main opposition because it's the biggest of the lot.
It's the biggest political party. It is no opposition. It occasionally makes press releases about some things it's not happy about. That's different from opposition. And you can see that the same lack of clarity is coloring its illusions and assumptions about forming a coalition. When you want to form a coalition, there must be a basis, either an ideology or an individual. Look, we want Charles to be president. But when all of us want to be president and we are saying we want to form a coalition,
that's a bit problematic.
Not only problematic, it's self-delusion.
Well, I'm going to come to that in a minute. But why do you think that in the face of everything that's happened, with Nyesom Wike, for example, in the eyes of many, clearly working against the PDP, and in this climate of defections from the PDP to the APC, Mr. Wike remains in the PDP, and perhaps more startling, the PDP allows him to remain, and for all intents and purposes, you know, continues to undermine itself.
The answer is simple. I ask myself, if Wike was a member of Awolowo's action group, or a member of Aminu Kanu's PRP, he would have been thrown out within 30 minutes. Because these were parties that had clear ideological focus, had basis for godfatherism. Look, we are nurturing people who will follow ideology. The PDP represents none of that. And for that reason, they are careful about whom to annoy. He might be useful tomorrow. So then I don't see within the PDP now, quite frankly, under Obasanjo and those other times, you could trace some core developmental focus of the PDP. You could, both at the economic and political level. Today, what does it represent? It wants to take power. I can understand that. A lot of people want to take power. Have they told us what they want to do with it? We've heard, oh, you know, there's hunger, there's poverty. That is not an ideology. That is not a way of managing hunger. We are coming together to push out the APC. We don't like what they are doing. Can you tell us what you're going to do differently in clear and detailed terms? It's not there. So the PDP is a party that needs to be formed again. Right now, it has a lot of people who think they're the owners of the party. If you look at the age bracket of the dominant forces, they are way older than some of us, and we are not particularly young people. Who are the new people they are bringing in? What are their conversations? You're talking about the masses, and I take as a classical case the press conference they gave when the state of emergency was declared. All of them, all the political coalition leaders, came out and invited Nigerians to resist the coalition. Fantastic idea. Question number one. Their leaders of political parties, what was the action of their elected members in the National Assembly? You see Nigerians who can't feed. When you say Nigerians, you resist it. In what form? So you see that mental fog, that lack of ability to understand how to access state power and use it, that you reach the people, not the media. The media becomes an adjunct to what you're doing with the people. And that's also, I think, but I'm sure we'll come to that. That's part of the problem of the obedient movement too. In this mistaken assumption, okay, your previous guest spoke of, you know, Peter Obi going to see Almajiris. Fantastic. You go to a school, you donate 5 million. That's support for education. You appear in the newspaper, that's a news item. It's not a movement. How many obedient people in that area did you mobilize? If you're to hold the election, do you have in that place people who man your polling booth? The answer is no. So obedient is not mobilizing. Somebody needs to let them know there are no elections on no polling booths on the internet. Strong movement around a powerful politician who has demonstrated true capacity to lead. But delusional excitement and talking about what is good for Nigeria cannot give you the ground.
That's a good point. But they would argue that that's part of the reason why the opposition is trying to coalesce into something. They're coming together, doing stuff that's aimed at sort of resetting their relationships with the various parties, groups, and with political sort of titans such as Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi. What's the big centerpiece of that in your assessment?
I see no centerpiece at all. They are trying to see if they can gather several platforms and individuals and get more votes than the government. Besides those votes, I don't see what's the center. Do you suppose that you have Peter as president, some of the candidates of the other parties with their own reputation and personal history and source of wealth, do you think they will live peacefully with Peter Obi? The answer is no. Do you think many of the Southeast politicians will be excited to have Peter as president, knowing how he governed Anambra State, knowing how he made sure no money got lost, knowing how he handed over the schools, complete with funds? Okay, Catholics, this is the number of your school, this is the amount per school, 6 billion, this other people 6.4. You think they are going to sit and make that happen? So let's disaggregate the confusion and place a few things on the table. You have parties that are not in power who would like to get into power. They will need the votes to displace the APC. But in doing that, you're going to bring people of like convictions. They don't have that. They don't share that. Most of them are aspirants. Secondly, there must be a central belief that, look, this is what we're going to do when we get into power. You're not going to get that. You also have in that coalition people who had betrayed each other before and who, from all the indications, have not changed at all. That's another element, and you're going to now talk about funding. Once you talk about coalition, the first thing that happens is that everybody watches his resources or her resources. So I've said it before and I'll say it again. It is possible there's something I don't know that's going to lead to a wonderful coalition. But if you're talking about access to state power, most of those in the coalition are too comfortable, have groomed themselves in the last 25 years on political conspiracy, which can only work within enclosures. A coalition like the type the APC did, they worked for it. The ACN and the CPC did. They worked for it. They went around. They were on the ground. They were not busy moralizing. The moralizing element was to stigmatize the PDP as bad in order to take power from it. Now, that level of sophistication and strategizing is not happening.
Right. But obviously, things can move in a slightly different direction. I mean, history doesn't always repeat itself exactly because there are too many variables that make it sort of different. But do you think, if you're looking at what happened in 2023, for example, with Atiku and Obi collectively getting almost double the votes that Tinubu got, do you think Atiku and Obi, as they try to forge some kind of alliance, I mean, I don't know the extent of it, or coalition or whatever, have what it takes to bring this country together from north and south in 2027? Or will their coming together potentially breed further resentment and divisions between north and south, depending on who takes preeminence?
See, if they're able to come together,
a
practical impossibility as far as I'm concerned, but I'm speculating now. Let's assume hypothetically that they come together. Peter has substantial following in the north at certain levels, but he does not have legs on the ground. So it's Atiku that can put the legs on the ground to garner those votes. Peter has wide national support, so does Atiku. If two of them were to come together, it's likely that they will swing the vote.
But how will they come together? In what capacity?
That's what I'm leading up to.
Okay.
And that's why I started by saying that I don't see that happening. Is Peter going to join the PDP? The answer is no. Is Atiku going to join the, what do you call it?
Labour
Party? The answer is no. Now you're assuming Atiku decides to join the Labour Party. Is he going to be president? If he's going to be presidential candidate, the obedience will say no. If Peter is going to PDP, that will annoy a lot of people who are lining up to be vice president. So let me put the fact the way I say it. There is not going to be any form of coalition, conversation, conspiracy, discussion, and negotiation that will bring Peter Obi and Atiku together to run on one ticket. I don't see that happening. Assuming it's to happen, there's the possibility, very probably likelihood, that two of them, their votes together could pull off some magic. But moving out of the realm of speculation, there's nothing to talk about.
But what do you think the point then is of this coalition, which they're investing their time and energy into?
There is no coalition. Let me give you an example. Now, when the SDP was formed, you know, it was the old SDP, it was reformed. Some of us were invited to the meetings, and a lot of conversation was going on. All the big politicians were there. So after the first meeting, second meeting, you know the late John Ode, who was a Minister for Information?
Yes, I know.
He called me up. He said that, okay, that meeting they are going for, they are talking about you. I said, no, I'm not going to get into any political. He said, yes. Well, I said, how is he going at your end? And I hope I'm not misrepresenting him. He said, my brother. Wike called all of us who went for that meeting. I said, let me not see your leg there again. So we asked about so and so person. He said, no. You know, everybody has to attend these meetings to hear what others are saying, to know whether it's serious. I said, but they're experienced politicians. They know nothing will come of this. He said they know, but they will keep coming until it's not happening. Because as they are coming, they are not making concessions. And I'll cite one example on that attempted coalition. You know, the first planned press briefing of that initiative, you know, a date was fixed and time. I told somebody who was close, 2 or 3 other people, I said, let's see who will bring money for that press briefing. You know, it had to be cancelled, postponed 2 times, 3 times. So there are so many things. It's easy to talk in the media about coalition, but also the people you're planning against, are they sleeping? The APC is one of the most, its capacity for meandering is legendary. And you think it's by making speeches you displace them. It's also an incumbent government. It's not laid back like the government he took over from. And all of that. So if you're going to really say to yourself, oh, I'm going to do this, then what it translates into is that you're going to also be capable of strong strategic engagement. Evidence of that is not there. There is no mobilization of party members. There's no strengthening of party machinery. There's no negotiation across parties. Big men are discussing. After discussing, they go to their houses. Ask yourself, I ask myself, Atiku has gone for a meeting, P2B has gone for a meeting, Garba Shehu has gone from SDP, and they've talked about coalition. When they go back, is there a drill down, by which I mean you now call your own internal party meeting, this is the outcome of this thing.
Yes.
Cascade this down to the state region, cascade it to the state and the local government. That's how parties work. That's not how it's working.
Right.
So that template of, oh, when is election time, we give people money, that's still the, and that's why I say they are coasting. They belong to a generation that needs to be scaled off for fresh air to come in.
Right.
The mode of doing politics has been that of determine what to spend, where to spend it, close to election. You are not even campaigning. You're not even using your performance to work, to make people feel you should be the next person. And when you think about it, that's the issue on the table.
Right. They would argue, though, that it's not campaign season yet, that what they're doing is laying the groundwork for what will then happen when that season comes. But beyond that, I mean, do you, as somebody who is a well-respected political analyst, do you feel positive about what is happening in Nigerian politics currently as a result of what you're seeing in, number one, the ruling party and the opposition camps as well? I mean, do you frame it as sort of forward-looking, or are you wary?
Looking forward, I'm concerned. The alacrity, I use the word, which people are flying into the APC, has generated a lot of rumors concerning their reasons. But besides the reasons, there are other issues to consider. A glut will occur. As you're coming into the party, those who are there before you are already planning your destruction, because you're coming to take some space. So it will soon become unattractive even within the APC itself. You have too many big animals in the room, so some things are bound to get broken. That's number one. Number two, the spate of, if you like, defections is creating the illusion or the mistaken impression that it's because of wonderful performance. I want to join the winning team. Nobody is fooled. That's not the reason for some of them. Some have looked around them and considered that, look, for re-election, I better join this big train. This tricycle we're driving, the train will run over it, so let's board the train. That is the other angle. The third and most disturbing is the fact that the quality of coalition is deteriorating every day. And you find the opposition, quality of opposition rather, complaining that it's the dominant party that's destabilizing them. That is quite possible. But when you say that, you admit incompetence, you admit lack of strategy, you admit inability, yes, to contest appropriately. If you're going into a fight, you say you want to be a professional boxer, now we prepare for it. We get into the ring, I throw a punch, you say, no, imagine that punch was too hard. Did you enter the ring to fight? Yes. So the opposition actually, by its own reactions and some of the observations, you recall that Atiku once said that, oh, they are trying to destabilize the party, that they gave 50 million or something like that. You know, it was in the news. Now, assuming that is true, what does that tell you? What kind of wretched party do you have? First, that can be destabilized from outside. It means there's no internal cohesion. Second, that all it will take is 50 million, not dollars, not 500 million, 50 million naira to what kind of party? Is that a town union?
We've got about a minute left or so, which is a bit unfortunate. But in terms of the ruling party, politically going forward, I mean, do you think that, what do you think of their strategy? Is it all about mobility from the opposition to the APC? Is that essentially what it is, the defection sort of wave of defections?
What I suspect, what I sense in the air is progressive denudation of the other parties, drawing away their members, crippling them politically, and infiltrating whatever is left of them to also make them ineffectual and ineffective. Right. That is what it's going, that's what's emerging progressively, because you can't speak of very exceptional performance. You also can't speak of all the issues that have been, you see, all conversations today about 2027 and re-election. Is that the core problem on the table for the nation today? No. Now you look at the ruling political elite, the various factions, their concerns is also how to find accommodation in the emerging or what will likely emerge. Therefore, governance suffers at the moment, and what the APC has to watch out for is undue optimism and triumphalism.
Right.
It may create the illusion, oh, just like the PDP, after I said it was going to be around for 60 years, it got thrown out. To throw the APC out will take hell on earth. Because you have determined, look, let's be
very briefly, we've got
strategic.
20 seconds.
Yes,
Sorry.
the man who is president today, everybody was sure he wouldn't get the APC ticket. Absolutely sure. I was sure. I was on this show. He got it. We were sure he would lose. Now, everything possible was done, forbidden and all of that, and he became president. Now he's president and in power. You think he will sit down, eating amala, and watch himself thrown out if he could do all he did to come in? So the opposition has to stop playing games, really. They need to wake up and become strategic or pass away.
On that note, I want to thank you very much indeed. Superb analysis, as always. The political analyst, executive director of Development Specs Academy, Professor Okey Ikechukwu, is also a member of the editorial board of this day newspaper. Great to have you on the program. Thank you very much indeed. That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow from me and the entire team here in Abuja. Bye-bye, and thank you for watching.